everyone, and welcome back to Learn Conversational English. I'm Lana, and with me as always is Peter.
Hey, really looking forward to today's topic.
So, today we're talking about something that's pretty personal to both of us. We're going to be chatting about moving to America, the good stuff, the not so good stuff, and everything in between. What it's really like to pack up your life, start over, and try to make this country your home.
Yeah, and what makes this interesting is that both of us have a unique perspective on it. Neither of us went through immigration ourselves, but we both grew up in households where it was this ever-present thing.
Totally. So, for those of you who don't know, my parents are originally from London, England. They moved to the US when I was 4 years old. So, I grew up here, but I also grew up with this very strong British presence at home. My mom still says biscuits instead of cookies.
That's great. My story is a bit different. My parents are from Ukraine. They emigrated before I was born, so I'm 100% American born. But growing up, it was like living in two worlds at once. We had this whole Ukrainian life inside the house and then completely American life outside.
And I have a younger sister who was born here in the US, and the difference between her experience growing up and mine, even though she's only a few years younger, it's noticeable. She never had that feeling of being from somewhere else.
I have two younger brothers, both born here too. Same thing. They are thoroughly American in a way that I'm almost a little bit jealous of.
It's interesting, right? But anyway, today we're covering everything: choosing where to live, immigration, finding a job, finding a home, fitting in, food. Ugh, the food.
Cannot wait for the food section.
But let's start at the very beginning, deciding where in America to actually live, because this is a massive country, and that decision is a lot.
It really is, and I think people outside the US sometimes don't appreciate just how different it can be from one state to another. Moving from New York to Texas is almost like moving to a different country.
Completely different culture, weather, cost of living, politics.
And when you're emigrating, you're usually not coming in with a ton of choices. You're going where you have family, or where there's a job, or where someone said it was a good place.
That's exactly what happened with my parents. They had a contact in the Midwest, a friend of a friend, and that's just where they went. My mom has told me she cried the first winter.
Coming from London to a Midwestern winter, that's a rude awakening.
She said the cold was one thing, but it was more the flatness. She was used to a city with hundreds of years of history, and suddenly she's in a suburb where everything looks the same.
That's something I've heard from my parents too, this sense of newness. Everything in America is so new, and that can feel exciting but also kind of hollow, like there's no weight to it.
No history. My mom used to say that. There's no history here. And I'd be like, Mom, I grew up here. I have history here. And she'd just give me this look.
I think for immigrants, the question of where to live is also about community. You want to be near people who understand you, who speak your language, who eat the same food.
My parents had a bit of a British expat network, which helped. But cost of living is such a huge factor that doesn't get talked about enough. New York, San Francisco, LA, these are some of the most expensive cities in the world. And if you're starting from scratch with no credit history,
Which brings us to immigration itself. Yeah,
so immigration, we could honestly do a whole separate episode on just the paperwork.
just the paperwork alone. My dad has a very specific memory of sitting in an immigration office waiting room for hours, just waiting, not knowing. And he says that feeling of not knowing whether you'd be approved, whether you could stay, that was the hardest part, worse than any cultural confusion.
The uncertainty. I think that's the word that comes up again and again. You don't know if your application will be approved. You don't know if you can stay. You don't know if your family will be allowed to join you.
And during all of that, you're supposed to be building a life, finding work, finding a place to live, learning the system, while living in this constant state of maybe.
My mom has told me about the forms, the endless forms, and the interviews and the waiting. And this was decades ago when the process was arguably simpler.
My parents had what they call a go bag for years, a bag packed near the door with essential documents and some cash, just in case.
Oh, that's heartbreaking, actually.
It is, but it becomes so normalized that they didn't even think of it as heartbreaking. It was just practical.
And even once you have your green card or your citizenship, there's this psychological residue. My mom has been a citizen for years, and she still gets anxious sometimes, in ways that I think trace back to that period of uncertainty.
My dad became a citizen years ago, and he still sometimes gets anxious at airports, even though there's absolutely nothing to worry about anymore. The anxiety's just baked in.
My parents had English, which was a massive advantage. But imagine navigating all that bureaucracy in a language you don't fully understand yet.
My mom's English was okay when they arrived, she could get by, but American slang and the accent confused her a lot. She'd nod along understanding maybe 60%.
I understood 60% and hoped the other 40 wasn't too important.
And then there's culture shock on top of everything. The way you greet people, how customer service works.
My mom found American customer service strange at first. Have a great day from every single cashier. She thought people were being fake. You don't mean that.
But then you come to understand it's just a different cultural norm. And weirdly, you start to miss it when you travel somewhere less enthusiastic.
Let's talk about finding work because the American job market is its own beast entirely.
The whole culture around applications and interviews is so different from a lot of other countries.
The resume. In the UK, a CV might include your photo, date of birth, all quite formal. In America, you absolutely do not put a photo, no date of birth, nothing. That could trigger discrimination claims.
And the American cover letter is this performance. You have to sell yourself in a way that feels uncomfortable if you come from a culture where talking yourself up is seen as boastful.
My mom still struggles with that. She'll say, I just don't like to toot my own horn. And I have to explain, in American work culture, if you don't toot your own horn, nobody else will.
My dad had a hard time with interviews at first. Back in Ukraine, the interview culture was more formal, more transactional. Here, they want you to be personable, to tell stories, to make them like you.
The culture fit thing, very American concept. And then there's networking, which is so important here.
When you're new to a country, you don't know anyone yet. You're starting from zero. My dad got his first real job here through a connection at his church. He says, never underestimate the church, Peter.
That makes sense. Immigrant communities often build networks through religious institutions, community centers, cultural organizations.
And then once you get a job, the work culture, the expectation that you're always available, the hustle mentality.
And healthcare being tied to employment is something people from other countries cannot get their heads around. In the UK, you have the NHS. You're sick, you go to the doctor. Here, if you lose your job, you might lose your health insurance.
My parents were shocked by that. Absolutely shocked. Healthcare tied to employment was just incomprehensible to them.
And then there's finding somewhere to actually live, which in America is its own complicated system.
Credit scores, that's where we have to begin. Because if you're new to the country, you have no credit history, and landlords here are obsessed with credit scores.
No credit history doesn't mean bad credit, but to a landlord, it often gets treated the same way. It's this frustrating catch-22. You need credit to get credit.
My parents needed a co-signer for their first apartment, someone willing to put their own credit on the line. Not everyone has that option.
Security deposits are another barrier. 2 months' rent plus first and last month, you're looking at potentially 3 months of rent just to get in the door.
And then there's the American dream of the house with the yard and the two-car garage. For a lot of immigrants coming from smaller spaces and dense cities, this feels almost mythological.
My mom could not get over the size of American houses when we arrived. She kept saying, what do people do with all these rooms?
American square footage is genuinely wild compared to most of the world. And the mortgage system, 30-year fixed, adjustable rates, PMI, if you didn't grow up with it, it's incredibly confusing.
My parents rented for a long time before buying, partly because the buying process felt so opaque and intimidating.
My parents still call Ukraine home sometimes, even after decades here, even with kids born here. It just slips out.
I noticed that with my mom, too. She'll talk about when I was back home, and she means London. The idea of home is so tied to where you came from.
And that brings us to acceptance. How welcoming is America really?
The honest answer is it depends. It depends on where you are, where you're from, what you look like, what your name sounds like.
My experience growing up was relatively easy in terms of acceptance. I'm American-born, I speak without any accent, but having a Ukrainian last name that nobody could pronounce correctly, that was its own small thing.
The name thing is so real. Every time someone butchers your name, it's a tiny reminder that you're a little bit outside.
My cousin came from Ukraine at 12. The language barrier was real, the cultural differences were visible, and kids can be cruel without even trying to be.
I was the kid whose mom packed British biscuits instead of American cookies, and kids were curious rather than mean. But I know that's not everyone's experience.
And then there's the adult version. Where are you really from? Assuming your English can't be your first language. The microaggressions that add up over time.
My mom still gets the, oh, what a lovely accent, followed by unsolicited opinions about Britain, like she represents all of England and needs to answer for it.
Do you know the Queen phenomenon?
She has been asked that multiple times. She has never met the Queen.
But I also want to say there is genuine warmth in this country. Americans can be incredibly welcoming. The community spirit, the generosity during hard times.
100%. My parents have been helped so many times by neighbors, by colleagues, by strangers. There's a real kindness here that sometimes gets overlooked.
Okay, lighter turn, the food.
American grocery stores, the size of them. My 4-year-old self had a sensory overload the first time I walked into one. The cereal aisle alone.
The cereal aisle is genuinely overwhelming. Cereals with marshmallows, cereals that turn the milk different colors.
I was obsessed with Lucky Charms. My mom looked at the box and said, "These are not nutrients."
And the portions at restaurants. My mom's first American restaurant experience, a plate of pasta that looked like enough food for a family. She asked the waiter if it was meant to be shared.
Classic first-timer reaction. And tipping culture, which immigrants and visitors really struggle with.
The expectation that you tip 15, 20, 25%, and now you tip at coffee shops, at fast food places. I have seen a tip screen at a self-checkout machine. A machine.
The machine wants a tip. My parents found tipping very confusing at first. In Ukraine, tipping is modest and not really expected.
And my mom's experience trying to recreate Ukrainian food in America was a whole journey. Some ingredients just don't exist here, or they're not quite right.
The search for the taste of home, that's so real in every immigrant community.
My mom found the Ukrainian grocery store about 40 minutes away, and it became this pilgrimage. We'd drive there every few weeks. It was a big deal.
That's lovely. And the big box stores, Costco, Walmart, where you can buy a television and a year's supply of ketchup in the same visit. My mom's first Costco was terrifying. In a good way, she clarified.
The free samples at Costco, though, universal positive.
No one can argue with a free sample. Okay, practical stuff now. Finances, taxes, daily life.
Taxes. American taxes. In most countries, the government basically does your taxes for you. They know what you earned, they send you a bill or a refund.
In America, you figure it out yourself or pay someone else to. My first year doing my own taxes, I was genuinely confused about why this was a thing I had to do. The government already has this information.
My parents hired an accountant early on. State taxes on top of federal taxes, sales tax that varies by state and sometimes by county. And America taxes its citizens on worldwide income, which is pretty much unique in the world.
And healthcare, we touched on it, but it deserves more time. The whole system of deductibles, copays, in-network versus out-of-network. My mom has been here decades and still finds it confusing.
My dad needed stitches early on. Nothing serious, a cut on his hand. And the ER bill was more than a month's rent. That just doesn't happen in most developed countries.
The financial anxiety around healthcare is a uniquely American stress.
And the credit score system, this number that determines so much, whether you can rent, what interest rate you pay, sometimes even whether you get a job. My parents had excellent credit back in Ukraine, completely irrelevant here. They started from zero.
Building credit is this whole game you have to play, and for immigrants starting fresh, it takes years.
Then there's insurance. Car, renters, homeowners, life, disability. Americans are insured for everything. And banking. Americans still write checks. My European friends cannot understand why I have a checkbook.
That's so true. Checks are almost extinct everywhere else, and America is still out here like, did you bring your checkbook?
Let's end on something joyful. American holidays.
Holidays were such a big deal for me growing up because my family was figuring out which ones to adopt and how.
Every immigrant family goes through this. Which American holidays do we do? How much? Do we keep our own traditions alongside them?
Thanksgiving was huge for my family because we didn't have it in England. My parents gradually adopted it. At first, it was this awkward thing where we had a turkey, but nobody really understood why.
My family does Ukrainian Christmas on January 7th and American Christmas on December 25th. 2 Christmases.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It started practically. My grandparents in Ukraine observed the Orthodox calendar, but it's become this tradition we all love, the best of both worlds.
That's a beautiful example of immigrant culture blending, taking what you love from both worlds.
The 4th of July was interesting for my dad, this very loud, very American celebration of independence. He has complicated feelings about the politics of various governments. Found it a lot
But fireworks are universal.
universal. He was standing there watching the fireworks going, I still have complicated feelings about this, but he was smiling.
Halloween, which basically doesn't exist most places the way Americans do it. The costumes, the trick-or-treating. My mom overbought candy her first year because she didn't know how many kids to expect.
Classic rookie mistake. But she was charmed by it. Strangers' children knocking on the door and you give them candy. She thought it was delightful.
And Super Bowl Sunday, which is basically a national holiday, the commercials, people genuinely watch it for the advertisements.
Nowhere else on earth do people watch the ads. That is a uniquely American concept.
But what I love most about American holidays is the generosity of them. Americans go big. They are not half measures people when it comes to celebrating.
There's a real enthusiasm here that, once you get past the initial, is this genuine question, is actually really lovely.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. That was a lot of ground covered.
It really was, and honestly, we could go on for another hour on any one of those topics.
Maybe we'll do some follow-up episodes. There's so much more to say about healthcare, the education system, so many things.
For today, though, to everyone listening, wherever you are in the world, whether you're thinking about moving to America or you just want to understand what the experience is like,
We hope this conversation gave you a little window into what it's really like. The conversations people have at home, around the dinner table. That's exactly what this show is about.
and the fact that you're here listening, practicing your English, learning through real conversation, that is something to be really proud of.
Language learning is hard work, and we think it's incredible that you're putting in the effort.
So, from both of us, thank you so much for listening to Learn Conversational English today.
We really appreciate each and every one of you. And if you enjoyed this episode, please do give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps more people find the show.
Leave us a comment if you have a topic you'd like us to cover. We read every single one.
All right, until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep listening, keep learning.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.